My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my ranking of the Sony Spider-Man Cinematic Universe. Well, there's no Spider-Man. Like, what a stupid idea. This universe was doomed from the get-go because I don't want a Craven the Hunter movie. I want a Spider Man movie where he fights Craven the Hunter. I don't want a Morbius movie. I want a Spider Man movie where he fights Morbius. And the fact that they set up all these different characters and they never connected, they never had Spider Man, is just baffling. And I also hate the fact that Morbius, Venom, Craven, all villains, yet they're seen as the heroes in their movies. It's like you don't even understand what you're working with. So, this universe just sucks. But before I get to my ranking, this video will have spoilers, so if you haven't seen these movies, there's your warning. But the worst movie here is Madame Web. And I watched this movie back in February, and I already forget most of it. Like, I remember the terrible ADR from the villain. I remember the scene where the girls all dance on the table at the diner. I remember how Madame Web teaches these girls CPR just so they can use CPR later. Chekhov's CPR. I remember the fact that the trailers showed the Spider-Woman characters and they're in the movie for like 2 seconds. Wasn't there like a spider cart in the Amazon? I think so. There was a scene where they're trying to guess the name of Emma Roberts' future kid. Yeah, it's just a very forgettable movie, and I wish it was so bad that it's good, but it's just so bad that it's so bad. Like, you look at the cast: Dakota Johnson, Adam Scott, Sydney Sweeney. Like, you've got some good actors here, but everybody is phoning it in. There's no real vision on display, there's no cool action, there's no memorable story. It just falls flat in every single area, and it deserves to be treated as the joke that it is. The second worst movie is Craven the Hunter. And I forgot to mention in my review just how cringy the dialogue was. Like, Craven talks about how he has to hunt people so many different times, and there's a scene where the brother is sitting at a club, and Russell Crowe is just like, "That's my son, the chameleon." Fuck. And speaking of which, the chameleon CGI at the very end is abysmal. And it felt so tacked onto this movie, like, that should have been a sequel. So it just feels off. And the ending frustrates me because I actually do like the dynamic between Craven and his dad. And throughout the movie, his dad is like, "In order to be a man, you have to be like this." And Craven is like, "No, I'll be nothing like you." And then at the end of the movie, the brother is like, "Craven, you're just like dad." And then Craven finds a note from his dad where he's just like, "Son, you're just like me." And Craven just accepts it? Like, that goes against everything his character stands for in this movie. Um, Calypso is completely unneeded. What else? I just watched this movie a day ago and I'm trying to remember it. The origin scene, where it's a 25-minute long flashback, terrible decision. Completely unengaged from the get go. And this movie is just a slog to get through. But all that said, I do like Rhino in this movie. The fact his skin actually hardens is infinitely better than giant mecha suit Rhino. Aaron Taylor Johnson does bring the proper physicality to this character. Russell Crowe is good, and the action is pretty decent. So it's not abysmal, but it's still terrible. The third worst one is Morbius, and I don't actually remember much of this movie, but I do remember liking the story between Morbius and Matt Smith. I thought that aspect of this movie was really compelling, but the execution left plenty to be desired. It's directed by the dude that made Life, which, by the way, is a great movie, but this movie is just void of any personality or life or tension. Like, you've got a vampire movie and it should be scary, and it never was. I remember the CGI wasn't too good, and the fact that I can't remember much just tells you what you need to know. It was generic, it was forgettable, it was boring, maybe some redeeming qualities, but still a bad movie. But then we get to the good ones. And the third best one is Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And this movie is mediocre. This time, they know what kind of movie this is, and they leaned into it much more. And it does make for some good entertainment and some nice laughs. But there's still a part of me that's frustrated that you've got Carnage. Like, the R-rated villain. And it's a PG-13 movie. I did feel a little robbed here. And I was okay with the movie being funny, but I would have liked a little more to this story being told. And, oh my goodness, Tia Dharma, Calypso from Pirates of the Caribbean. I can't think of her name. Is it Naomi Harris? Just added nothing to this movie. Woody Harrelson, great actor. I don't think he was the right fit for this character. The CGI I actually do like in these movies. I just like how slimy it is. So yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed this movie enough, but it's nothing special. The second best one is Venom, and this is not what I was expecting from a Venom movie, and to be fair, it's not what I want from a Venom movie. But looking at this movie the way it is, it's actually really fun. The first half is generic as shit, but once Eddie and Venom are together, this movie is a screwball comedy. And it's so funny, and it's so unique and interesting, and it's unexpected in a good way. Tom Hardy completely commits to this character, and he goes for it, and he is just hilarious. And like, he is so sweaty and looks like shit this entire movie, to the point where it's hilarious. The villain is generic. The first half takes too long to get going, but I still have fun with this movie. But easily my favorite movie here is Venom: The Last Dance. And I'll begin talking about my issues because everything with Juno Temple and her backstory of running on the beach just added nothing to this movie. The way this movie handles the character No sucks. And the movie does feel a little jarring in moments. Like, all of a sudden, Eddie and Venom are hanging off an airplane, and then they get attacked just like that, and then they're just falling. And I wish some scenes didn't feel so rushed. And do I have any other issues? No, I think that's it. Okay, now on to the positives. First of all, the villains are really fucking cool. The fact that they operate like a wood chipper, where like it eats people and it sprays off blood from the back, is just great stuff. I also like how this movie just fully leans into the absurd, goofy side of this character, and we get Venom Horse and Venom Frog and Venom Fish, and it's just great to watch. This movie is really funny, and I like how this movie actually delivers on the symbiote craziness that I wanted from this franchise. Like, the last act is great. But my favorite part about this movie is how sincere it is. I thought the scenes where Eddie was traveling with this family were actually quite nice, and there's a moment where they're singing Space Oddity, and then it focuses on Eddie, and Venom is just like, don't you wish you could have had this? And I don't know, I feel like it adds some depth to the character where, yes, him and Venom have a good parasitic relationship, but at the same time, at an expense. And I like how the movie shows how much these two care for each other, especially at the end where Venom sacrifices himself to stop Eddie. And look, I'm just going to be honest, the last 15 minutes of this movie, I was crying. I can't believe I actually cared about Eddie's goofy relationship with Venom this much. When Eddie's reaching back to Venom and Venom just grabs a door and places it on Eddie so he'll be safe, like, that hit me in the feels. And then Eddie wakes up and he's like, buddy, you there? And the one dude's like, Venom's gone, Eddie. It's time to live your life. And I know people made fun of it, but when we get the flashbacks as Eddie is walking down the street set to Memories by Maroon 5, like, the tears were definitely coming for me, and it's just so sincere. You know, it reminds me of like a drunk guy at a wedding making a speech, and at first he's just barely able to talk, but then eventually he's able to get his point across, and you're like, huh, I shouldn't be moved right now, but I kinda am. There's just a level of sincerity to it. And he gets to the Statue of Liberty and he's like, I'll never forget you, buddy. Come on, like, you can say what you want about this movie. I know most people hate it, but I loved how it was able to have that level of care and passion, and I felt it. I also love the fact that so much of this movie is if Venom shows himself, the monsters will track them, but they don't give a shit because they have to dance with Mrs. Chin. Like, that is just... Like, if you want to nitpick it, I get it, but also, that's the charm of these movies. So yes, I actually really liked Venom The Last Dance, and that's why it's number 1. But what's your ranking of these Sony Spider-Verse movies? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin, out.